Hello, I'm Morris Kochanski, Wilderness Living Skills Instructor for the Boreal Forest. Today's mini topic is the value of training in survival. Now, with the current interest in survival knowledge, we become concerned about people who acquire knowledge and then they hope to be able to get something useful out of it should they encounter a survival episode. Now, I keep bringing up the topic that I look upon survival training as being similar to swimming training, that I figure it's a good comparison. That you know that you have to go through a certain process over a certain time before you're good at anything. And it's pretty clear that getting wet doesn't make you a swimmer, and splashing around for quite some time doesn't make you a swimmer. It takes some coordinated effort, and generally you will find that probably if you want to learn how to swim, you're going to learn faster if you have a swimming instructor. It is possible that you could get a good manual on swimming and study it, and using it eventually become a swimmer. I suppose you might even be able to do that with driving a vehicle. It would be a little more complicated to teach yourself how to fly. But a vehicle in a great big field with no big rocks or stumps, and you get and you drive and you drive and you learn by the seat of your pants. Now, a lot of us in the early days, it's how we acquired our knowledge in many fields that relate to the out of doors. I was brought up on a farm, and on the farm I learned how to use an axe, burn brush piles, and deal with animals that are apt to hurt us, and many things that eventually are sort of readily transferable to other areas of our experience. But at any rate, the issue is that you have to try to find a good instructor. You might also want to accumulate a library of knowledge that you can use as a guide in conjunction with good instructorship. And after you have picked up enough of a skill, you might realize that the real world is what you should pit yourself against. In my situation, we realized that one of the biggest challenges was winter survival and dealing with the bitter cold. So I would reserve the statistically coldest weekend of the year, which is the last weekend in January, for survival courses relating to the cold. And predictably, those weekends were about as cold as the winter can get. It was a common comment with the students that had been working with me that the reality of staying out there on a simulated situation, and generally the one simulation that we picked on was being a snowmobiler, dressed to be comfortable on a snowmobile, and you find you're in the middle of nowhere all of a sudden and it's bitter cold. How are you going to manage for at least overnight? Well, a lot of people figured that their learning doubled or tripled by staying out that one night when it was 40 below, because you have no way of being convinced as to exactly what the experience is till you've done it. You know that you can swim to an island a kilometer away because you have swum that distance many times, and you know you can repeat it. And you realize just exactly what the misery is and just exactly what you're going to learn in the future with regard to mastering the issue of staying out overnight at 40 below. But the real acid test is to stay out not just one night, because almost anybody can get by that night because of the physical reserve you might have. But the acid test, can you stay out 3 consecutive nights and still find that you have enough energy left over to be able to cope? Because the longer you stay, the more tired you will be, and the greater the challenge with regard to the issue of how challenging and tiring such an experience is. We find that there tends to be, or a lot of people seem to detect that the internet has sort of spawned a lot of armchair specialists, in that there are a lot of people who have developed an opinion about certain things, but that opinion is not based on the direct experience. So when you want to find an armchair authority that's credible, you have to find out what their background is and just how many kilometers have they swum, as far as the swimming analogy, or how many nights they have spent in the out of doors before they acquire the credibility. Because the only way that I know of gaining credibility is to be a person that actually has been there and done it, sort of thing.